Okay, so I've opened up this 75 Traynor Guitar Mate, and inside it you see all the good stuff that everyone wants, which are the what are called the mustard caps. They're mustard colored, and they were used by Marshall in their golden era, and they are supposedly really good sounding caps. Anyway, what I want to show you is a couple of really simple things you can do with this amp to make it sound, in my opinion, pretty amazing. Anyway, before we get into that, I'm going to hook the amp up to a speaker cabinet and give it a quick play the way it sits, and we'll go from there. Okay, so this is the stock amp, the way it was shipped. Original filter caps. Kind of a nasal tone. Reverb pan is on the bottom side of the amp, which makes it a later one. Turn the reverb off. Tremolo works. The treble boost is pretty extreme on these, and they're a pretty bright amp, although the range of bass you can add is pretty huge. There we go. So just to point out the, I guess the interesting parts of the circuit, or what's going on here. Over here you have the input jacks, which lead you to the first preamp tube. Let's get that showing there. Input jacks, first preamp tube. That's basically the preamp right there. There's the second preamp tube, which drives the reverb. There's the lines going out to the reverb tank. That's the phase inverter. That'll be that will be sharing tremolo and some reverb functions. And those are your power tubes there in the output section. And these, of course, are what are called filter caps, which usually on an amp this old are toast and need to be replaced. In this case, I'm not going to replace them simply because they're in pretty good shape, and I'm not actually going to use this amp this much. I have 2 or 3 others of these that I use on a regular basis, and this one is almost mint. This part of the board here is the phase inverter, and this is where most of the quote-unquote improvements in this amp can be made. This wire here that comes from the speaker jack, this yellow wire, you follow it along, comes to what's known as the feedback resistor. That goes down to the bottom of the phase inverter, which is this guy here, the actual resistors that set that up. And this is the presence control, this cap, and of course the presence runs to ground. On a larger amp, the presence control would have a potentiometer, so you could adjust it. In this case, the presence is preset to a certain value. This is one of the things we're going to play with. So let me just turn the amp off and get some tools ready, and we'll go from there. Okay, we've taken all of our safety precautions and unplugged the amp, discharged the filter caps, all of that stuff. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't be doing this. Anyway, just to review what we're going to be doing, we're looking for the output jack, which in this case is actually here, but it's marked on the back, and it also, the actual internal speaker jack is down at the bottom. Anyway, from that jack you have two wires that go to the transformer. We're not interested in those. You have a second wire that goes to the circuit board. You'll know it's the right wire. On Marshall's, the wire is purple. You'll know it's the right wire because when it goes to the board, it goes through some sort of resistor and then at some point goes to ground. That is your feedback loop. Some of the signal from the speaker as it bounces around is transmitted back through this line to the bottom of the phase inverter where it goes in out of phase, which corrects distortion in the amplifier. The presence control, which is here, rolls off some of that distortion correction in the top end, which gives you that presence boost. It's actually adding distortion on the treble frequencies. In this case, the amp is set up as if the presence were on 10, not my particular favorite setting. And so what I'm going to do is actually carefully take a wire cutter and remove only that capacitor. So again, snip snip, only that capacitor. Don't cut anything else. Know exactly what you're doing, otherwise your amp probably won't work. That's basically how you redial in the presence to be a little fatter. We're going to play the amp now so you can hear it and see what difference that makes. Okay, so basically the amp is at this point darker with a tighter output section, more beef, a little thicker distortion, perhaps too thick for most people. But when you wind these amps out, the nasty fizz that you sometimes hear has been eliminated at this point. In part one we changed the presence loop on this amplifier, and in part two we will change the first coupling stage.